with Alex.
Hey guys.
From Hammer Performance. Alex, what do you do at Hammer?
So we do high performance Harley Davidson motor work. So all your Sportsters, twin cams, Evo big twins right now. We'll get into the Milwaukee 8s, but head porting, big bore kits, that's kind of our bread and butter.
Cool, so why don't you show me around your shop?
Sure, take a look.
It's about time for a party at my house, and it wouldn't be the same without you. No, not at all.
So we keep a lot of inventory.
Comedic, I see for days there.
Yeah, a lot of Comedic gaskets. These are all our cams, our grinds for all the Sportsters.
Nice. That's for an XB?
So I believe that's for an XB head going on a tube.
Okay.
Yeah, all the different manifolds for the different size Mikuni carburetors. So everything from your stock CV up to the 48 Mikunis. Valves for all our head work. We're here. Pistons, all the pistons that we put in our big bore kits are custom. They're designed by us with the help of CP, and they're made by CP to our specs. So these are all our 1275 kit pistons here. Yep, these are all our fixed length push rods. It's kind of the way to go. We try to set up our packages and our kits and figure out what push rod they need rather than running adjustables. We do sell adjustables, but it's a lot better if you get the just the perfect length push rod in there.
The C at all.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing actually.
We're pretty specialized. We want to get more into selling other items. This is kind of what goes into like a full build for your, doing a horsepower package. I mean, you need roller rockers, you might need lifters, gaskets, obviously, tuning, lubrication. So that's kind of all what we have. They're really just parts that you would need for a performance build. So guides, springs,
some bullets.
Yep. They're actually, they're bulleted. They call it, that's the technique or the style, I guess.
That's super cool.
Called bulleted. Bronze manganese.
As I recall, you've got what I need.
So if I go ahead and I say like, okay, yeah, I want to make my XB9 make 110 horse.
Okay.
How do you do that, and then how do you tune it?
So the tuning is a difficult part about the XBs. You really have to know what you're doing. We don't really specialize in the Buells. We do a lot of work for them, but the tuning we're learning. We do a lot of stuff with Harley and the Power Vision, and it makes it really easy. Yeah, you're kind of on your own on the XBs with like ECM Spy or So, I mean, you're going to want to do a big bore kit, head porting. It's pretty easy with the Buells to break. I mean, we're not too experienced, so I don't want to give you numbers on that. I'm trying to do exactly what you're talking about with stock cams, because I know they're expensive. I'm doing head porting with bigger valves and a 1250 kit, and I'm going to try and break 105 horsepower. So we'll see. Because
a lot of guys have the claim that they've got 100 horsepower Buell and 100 foot-pounds of torque. What is the reality?
100 foot, yeah.
What is the reality?
Maybe at the crank, I don't know, about 100 foot-pounds of torque would be a lot. So I have a Sportster makes 120 to the wheel horsepower, and it makes about 90 foot-pounds of torque at the rear wheel.
At the rear wheel.
So I guess you might be able to say that you make 100 at the engine with that, but that's a high horsepower build too.
Right.
It's hard to do with the Buells right now.
And you would have to do head work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other way around it.
You have to do a lot of work for that.
Okay.
So I'll show you more about that in the shop. So 2007 later, probably out of an iron or something. But it got actually got a new crank. This is a crank from an 08 or later Buell XB.
Wow.
Or the XR.
Right. Okay, XR same?
Yep. In 2008, I think all XRs would have that then. Once they changed that, the oil pump setup on the XBs.
Right.
then they went to those. And
'cause that's this guy, right? No? That little
yeah, so this is an oil pump from a Sportster setup. And then in your case, in the later Buell XBs and in the XR 1200 Sportsters, it's integrated into the, so basically this is moved up.
Right.
It's a different setup, but
because I know
it's moved up.
That was an issue on, I think it's 07s and down. Where they just explode. The gear explodes.
Oh yeah, right. I don't think that's why they went to that oil pump setup. They got a little bit more performance out of it. And we don't actually have one on here, but yeah, Buell came out with a bronze oil pump gear as a fix for the 2 years. So we offer that on
What years were those? Do you remember?
Buell's.
Yeah.
It'd be from 03 until your bike, so 07 I think would be the last year.
Yeah, and then when they built the, what is it, the Thunderstorm? Or whatever the engine is on.
Yeah.
That's, I think.
I mean, the engine's very similar.
Yeah.
They just that was like one of the only changes. They moved that oil pump setup, kind of like the XBRR.
Yeah.
That's where they got it from, the race bike.
Interesting. Cool.
Which we have one, but it's kind of, we could show you, but it's kind of in shambles. But it's kind of cool if you want to look at it later.
Yeah.
Check it out. There's only 50 of them made.
Oh, look at all these heads sitting here.
Yeah, so this is like the graveyard. They're good heads, but like shipping issues or something. So if you ever decide to send us some heads, make sure you package them well if you want them to turn out. Yeah, it's really easy to ship stuff and just break fins and damage stuff. So flow bench, really we're a machine shop, but we do specialize in the performance stuff. So we have the flow bench, we have the dyno, we have the tools to not only do the work, but figure out how to make the power and put it together. The two important pieces of equipment, and maybe even the third one, we have the 2 CNC machines, and we do a lot of honing. So all our big work kits are brought here, and then we finish hone them to the piston to match the piston, and just generally inspect them and clean them before they go out. But we have a 5-axis here that does our head porting. So we have programs wrote specifically for our heads and our setups, and it ports it for us, and then we do some finish work on it. So porting would just be opening up the port to match valves or whatever your build is, kind of.
So the intake or the.
Yeah, porting. I mean, it can mean a bunch of different things. But I don't really have. So here's like what a stock head would look like. Now this one's been opened up inside with something what we call our competition valve job. So we're opening up these seats, the diameter, to match your stock valves, but to get a little bit more improvement in airflow.
Okay.
But that's what a stock port would look like. Right? It's just cast. And then this isn't fresh out of the machine. We sand them before, but this is an 883 head. So this is actually a little bit earlier, but I mean, they're the same port size basically when they begin. So that's porting right there. We're opening it up to match the valve. So like on this setup here, there's your intake valve out of an 883 Sportster. And on this setup, we're going to a 2020, which is actually bigger. I don't have any out here, but here's an inch 980, so 40 thousandths bigger than this. So
There you go.
this is a set of XR heads, nearly done.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So we'll clean this up even more, but that's pretty much what they'll look like completed. We go and clean up the chamber a little bit on some of these. That's got our 30 degree. We put on pretty much everything we do. Gets you a better combustion chamber setup as far as the burn and turbulence in the chamber.
Perfect.
Makes it run a little bit more efficiently, more power. This is really the workhorse of the whole shop. It does, all the heads go through here at least once. So opening up the diameter of the seats, like I just talked about, and then, you know, anything from decking the head for finishing, cutting that angled squish band in the head. Anytime people want to dual spark plug their heads, anything like that, this machine's going to do it. And we have programs written to kind of make it easier and quicker for us to do that.
That's got to be the most expensive screen stand anyone's ever had.
Yep. We do get some duds, so we'll put them to use. Has to stand there and actually hold this and hone. And Ross, the guy that does it, you know, he's got to have done over 1,000 of them. So you get really good at it. And we're opening these up about 3 to 4, maybe 5,000th of an inch from where we get them. I mean, you're talking about a couple of pieces of paper stacked together. So thickness, which is actually a lot in this because we're dealing with tenths. Really, when we go to read it, we're dealing with tenths of thousandths of an inch. So it gets really accurate.
So that's what it takes to make stuff that works.
Yeah, if you want power and you want it to run a while, then you need to get it accurate. All our bikes back here right now, except for the one. And there's some missing. We'll check them out later, but yeah, what's that? S1, 97 S1, that's Jason's.
That's the owner?
The owner's son.
Okay.
Dan's V-Rod, he raced that. It's pretty much stock. Our test twin cam and our test Sportster.
Sportster's looking a bit sad.
Yeah, it's a part now. We do all kinds of different testing, so it's always in some kind of state of disarray. But that thing's been up to like 133 rear wheel on a 1275.
Holy shit.
So stock, that bottom end's never been out stock.
And you can just bang that power through there, no problem?
Yeah, it's held up. Oh yeah. Yeah, people think that I've snapped the belt, but who knows, it could have been a rock or something.
Yeah.
This belt, I'm sure is original to where we got it. And yeah, it has thousands of poles on the dyno. So very hard poles.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 60 horsepower up to, like I said, 132 or something at the rear wheel, and it'll handle it. And that's a 1-inch belt. That's even narrower than.
That's like the old school Buell belts.
Yeah.
The original ones, like the 2003s. I think that was a 1-inch belt.
So all the older Buells use a 1 1/8.
Okay.
And mine, that XB over there used 1 1/8. But all the Sportsters now use it's a 1-inch. But yeah, it handles it. So this is an X1 for a customer. We're doing a full build. He flew it over from the UK. And he's a marshal at the Isle of Man TT.
Wow.
So we're doing a build for him, 1275 build. Hoping to break about 120 of the rear wheel on that. I think that's a full build on that one.
And this is an S or an X1?
This is an X1. Yeah, 2000, I believe, X1. This is Dan's S1 White Lightning that he's putting together. He's almost got it together. He's waiting on a carburetor.
Makuni?
Yep, 48, and it'll break 120.
Holy shit.
That's our goal, but it should break 120, no problem.
Look at that shifter. That's a custom.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that setup is, but...
Is he running 6-speed in any of these?
Nope. I don't think he used to race Sportsters and Buells. I'm not sure. People do. I don't think he's run a 6-speed or anything.
So I know it's possible to do a Baker 6-speed in an X1.
Any of these tube frame Buells, because of the motor, they all have a trap door transmission, so you can unbolt the primary side and unbolt the transmission and swap anything you want into it. The best I think you can really do, and for the money, is just get your gearing right as far as the pulleys and that goes. So,
are you going to do any of that in yours?
What's that? Change the gearing?
Yeah.
I'm going for a really cheap build right now.
Okay.
So I'm using customer takeoff parts that we get back or stuff like that. So I'm trying to get as cheap, to get it going as possible, but also make power. So I ported the heads, put bigger valves. I'll show you that. I got the motor on the bench over there. Totally. Here's a big fin cylinder and a small fin cylinder. So most companies out there have the small fin, if not all of them.
Okay.
and I think this is an exclusive for us, is the big fin, which is on all the 04 and later Sportsters and Buells.
What is the advantage to the big fin?
It's just what they did. You know, they went to that style to make it, you know, look a little bit fuller, but also you do get a little bit more cooling capacity. Okay. So you have a lot more surface area. Yeah. So the XBs need it. They're a little bit more enclosed.
For sure.
All the bikes really need it. So that's basically the only improvement. That's my pipe there. I'm going to use that one. Nope, I'm going to leave it stock. I'm going to mess with the active exhaust.
Yeah. Does your active exhaust actually work?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, everything works on it. And you can tune the RPMs that it shuts on and off.
Yeah.
So there's some cool dyno charts on the website, but if you look at like some charts, you know, they'll have reversion on the torque curve. On some of these XBs with the active exhaust, you can almost tune that torque curve flat. You'll have little dips where the valve is opening and closing, but you can kind of tune it flat. So I'm interested to play with that and see if that's not actually, because a lot of people I know delete them, right?
Right, everyone does.
Or they change the pipe out or something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play with it and see if it's not an actual performance gain. I'll let you know. I have a dyno right here. This is Aaron's. He bought this because he was racing Bonneville. He's big into Bonneville, so he bought a dyno
just so you could
for testing, but we have access to it. Yeah, this is just basically finding horsepower, and it also will do fuel sniffing. So if you don't have like wide bands or something, we have fuel sniffers.
You just plug it in the exhaust?
Yep, and that ties into, and that's what I'm going to do when I tune that bike, is actually I'll plug in that wideband sensor that's tied to the dyno, and it'll come up. So when I make a run, I can graph the AFR.
Right.
With, you know, it'll be tied in with the horsepower, so I can tweak it. This dyno can only read from one O2 sensor. You can upgrade it, but it's about $6,000 just to add another. So you can
Why couldn't you do one and then the other?
You could. I guess you could do it that way. Yeah. You can see these 2 points here are where the active exhaust are either shutting off or on.
Okay.
There's 2 points, and you can tune them in the ECU.
So you're looking to make that go flat?
Yep, that's ideal because horsepower, I mean, people talk about torque a lot. You know, like my bike makes torque down low. Well, what you're really doing is making power down low. So the flatter you can get your torque curve and the higher you get your torque curve, the higher your horsepower comes out, because horsepower is just torque, and there's a formula times RPM, right? So if you're making more power here, you're making more torque is really what you're making. But horsepower is just the ability to do that work, to turn that torque into actual movement. So that's what you really care about is horsepower. Right. But yeah, if you bring up this torque band, like if you brought this up, then see how these dips match?
Yeah.
So your torque starts falling off, your horsepower falls off. Well, if you bring that up somehow, your horsepower is going to follow. Interesting. And depending on where your torque peaks, like, then that's going to decide.
Is this a fairly stock bike?
I would say so. Yeah, look at the power here.
Yeah.
It might have some tuning and some, like an air cleaner exhaust.
Yeah.
This is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
That's how we do.
How we do. History right here. Yeah, something like that. Hey, this is history.
This is
just the beginning.
Is this gonna be a yearly thing we're gonna do?
This is history.
This is Ride Out to Hammer Performance.
That's right.
Ride Out
is history.